In honor of my birthday this year and learning to celebrate me, I have decided to share my story. 7 months ago, I was sexually assaulted and raped by a man named Adrian Tyrell Patterson, who also goes by Ty. This was a first date at an IHOP in Dallas, Texas. Originally, he had reached out to me through Instagram, asked for my number, and I gave it to him. We started texting and FaceTiming all the time. A few weeks had gone by, and we decided to see if our compatibility was, compatible to in-person. And we decided on IHOP. Throughout talking those few weeks and even at dinner that night, we talked about intentions and boundaries, and they were very clear before we met, during the date and even after. The intentions, set for the night were let's meet each other, see how things go. If things go well, we can plan a second date, we can continue the first date, etc. Nothing more, nothing less. This was a Wednesday night in the middle of the week. I had work the next morning, so it seemed like a great opportunity to make that happen. From the get-go, the date was very uncomfortable. He was aggressive, he talked over me, and then throughout dinner, the entire dinner, he would brag about how many women he had been with, wanting me to guess his body count, what he had done with those women, just, it goes on and on. It was I felt like I was in high school again. It was very immature. He was 24 at the time. I think he still is 24. But that doesn't excuse that kind of behavior on a first date. I knew from that moment that it was not something I would want to continue past that night. So after dinner, he walked me to my car and invited himself into my car. Before anything happened, I made my intentions very clear again, as a multiple time throughout this night, that, hey, if things are going to go any further than this, that can happen on a second date. We talked about this, reminding him of everything we talked about. And that didn't work. He immediately started just pushing every boundary that he could. It started with kissing and small things, and very quickly worked up to what happened later. I told him no from the get-go multiple times, told him I wasn't comfortable, reminded him of everything, and any time that I told him no, used the specific word no, he greeted it with, "You don't tell daddy no," and would continue doing what he was doing, and he thought that was okay. He had proceeded to put force his hands on me, put his hands around me. And at this point, I jumped because I was scared. And when I jumped, I accidentally hit the trunk release button under my steering wheel of my car. And my lights came on, and I kind of thought that this was great, this is the break I needed. This is a great way to be okay, great, thanks for dinner, have a good night, we can plan a second date. I would say whatever I had to do to get out of that situation. And so he was okay, thanks, I'll close your trunk on the way out. And he got out of my car, and instead of closing the trunk, he crawled into the back of my SUV and closed himself in. Very quickly, he pulled me to the back, forced himself on me, and raped me in the IHOP parking lot. I was scared for my life at this point. His hands were on my throat. He is and was much bigger than me, and my body went into flight and not fight. You can assume everything else that happened in that car. It probably happened. When it was over, the first words out of his mouth were, "I'm sorry, I know you're mad, but I hope I didn't ruin my chances." And he hugged me, or tried to hug me, and left. I cried the entire way home. I ended up calling the RAIN hotline because I had never been in a position like this before and I didn't know what to do. And so with their support and advice, I later went to report him and went to the emergency room. I spent 13 hours being questioned again and again by any single person who walked into that room. And without my sane nurse at Baylor, I would have lost it. She's the only thing that got me through that night, so thank you. Sorry, I am not crying, I promise. Okay. The DNA from my rape kit did end up matching him from a previous case because he was already in CODIS, which is the system they use, but it was marked consensual. In my mind, I knew exactly what that had already meant. I'm sure you can guess what it means. You know, why would you be in a system like that if it hasn't happened before? And I can just assure you that he probably got away with it the first time, that time, because I know this has happened multiple times to multiple other women, specifically with him. He's just not been caught. So when the detective on my case reached out to him, he immediately lawyered up, and refused to talk. The case was sent to grand jury, where they decide if there's enough evidence to continue or to dismiss everything, and they chose not to move forward. The decision came in late May, so it took them several months to even get to that decision. Or not the grand jury, but it took this case 7 and a half, 8 months to play out in slow, agonizing pain for no reason. To this day, I'm still dealing with complications from all the medication I was put on that night. I was given like 6 to 8 different medications, to protect me from anything he could have given me, etc. The list goes on. I'm still dealing with insurance and hospital bills, and then fighting back and forth about everything. And then also just like the weight of this story on my shoulders. The hospital bill did total $13,000. And everything I've mentioned in my story is just one more reason why people choose not to report. And the legal system this time chose to let him walk away again. But I'm not going to do that, and that's why I'm here sharing my story. I'm not here to ask for pity. I am here to hopefully protect other women and shine a light on what so many survivors go through. The guilt, the fear, the shame, it's all very real. And it can be really hard to live with sometimes. If you or you know anyone who has been sexually assaulted by Ty or assaulted at all, I'm incredibly sorry you had to go through that. But my messages are open. I am here to talk, and you're not alone. Thanks for listening.